By your talk now, do you think it was wrong for the Iceland Prime Minister to resign, is what I'm trying to get from you now?
Yes.
Okay.
I thought it was a necessary pressure because in the Iceland minister's case, his wife was worth $500 million as at the time he became president. Okay, $5 million in raw cash. Total estimated was nearly $1 billion in assets, his wife. Okay, today if you grow that asset by, say, even 10%, there should be much worth more than the amount leaked against his name.
Yeah, but it's not necessarily about the amount, it's more about the principle and the moral behind what they did.
Exactly. So the principle there was you're president of the country and you seem to be legitimately, whatever it was, avoiding tax, which was supposed to go into building the country. Now, we don't have that kind of social structure that will criminalize or immoralize that level of business prudence, if you ask me, because as far as I'm concerned, that's business prudence. Nobody has said that the assets there were stolen. Nobody has said the assets there weren't legitimate. They were challenging the logic of trying to avoid tax. Okay? In our environment, that wouldn't be an issue at all. I mean, Aliko Dangote has got money there as well. It was mentioned in the list. Nobody is going to talk to Aliko. Definitely because we know his sources of funds. We're not questioning the legitimacy of his assets there in terms of whether they were stolen or not. Okay, it's purely a business decision, and we hear of asset inversion in the United States, for instance. We heard of the Pfizer case last week, where because the tax jurisdiction in America is expensive, tax laws are a bit stringent, tax rates are high, American companies can merge with companies in lower tax jurisdiction and move their headquarters there, in which case they get charged at the prevailing tax rate in those countries, right? The Pfizer case forced the merger between Pfizer and the Dutch company to break down because the government questioned tax inversion. Now, in the business cycle, or economic cycle, that's a wrong move by Barack Obama. It is counter business. That's the blunt truth. I should have legitimacy to do business in any nation that builds my equity, that improves shareholder value. That's the logic of business. And so it is the role of the government to make their own environment good for business.
So basically, your argument being that, and I don't think, like you said, anybody has said anything was illegal. It's more about morality.
Yes.
And you're saying we don't have the moral
capacity in the Saraki case, we are talking legality of his assets, not morality. So it's not exactly the same. So a good example of that was when what's his name now? When the Minister of State for Petroleum, Ibe Kachukwu, said he wasn't a miracle worker, and Nigerians, I mean, we've heard that from the president, we've heard that from other ministers, but we took a different view to that because we're not asking for a miracle in that sector. Our petrol stations have always had gas. We've never had power. So if we wanted power today from a fashola, that would be a miracle. In Kachi's case, no, we're asking for what we're already used to. So the same situation, a problem, but because one is legal, the other moral, and we don't have that. We're not even at the level of chasing morality in Nigeria yet. Even in Iceland, I would imagine that a lot of people will feel that it was too hard on the leader of the day.
Interesting. We're going to be watching that space. I mean, the trial is definitely ongoing, and some senators keep going with him to support him.
But you have 89 lawyers in your retinue.
It's a very impressive team. Even though O.J. Simpson didn't have that many lawyers.
That's illegal.
Let's move on now to something you mentioned there now about fuel. And it's been a hard 2 weeks. It's been a hard year, pretty much. But the last 2 weeks, I think, were particularly tough for a lot of people. The queues were ridiculous, to use that word very mildly. I mean, I saw queues easily almost 2 kilometers long, and I'm wondering, what are people doing? What are people supposed to be doing? You know, I mean, it's looking like it might have eased off a bit now, but we don't know if that's another film trick or if it's actually real. You know, we don't know also how long it's going to last, and if it's just in certain cities. Because I also saw on social media this morning that certain parts of the country even hiked their prices again yesterday, so as much as $2.50 per liter. So this fuel issue is definitely going to be around as it looks like for a while.
Yes, I bought for 300 about 5 days ago. 2 days after that, I bought for 215. So if I look at price, I would say there have been some measure of improvement, if you may, and it's crazy. I was on a trip back to Lagos, and there was this guy carrying 3 kegs on his bike, and right in front of me, and he was just going to overtake the car in front of me. So he hits, I thought it was palm wine, but when he just a mild scratch on that car, and the whole thing exploded.
No way.
Yes. Thankfully for him, I was first on the scene with fire extinguishers. We managed to rescue people from the bus. No life was lost. The bus wasn't too badly damaged because of the response of people. But it then tells you that it's much, much more than a demand-supply issue here. It's a health and safety issue. I mean, I expect meningitis to come back because you can't use your fans, you can't use your cooling systems anywhere. My car, I've
People
not put
died,
on.
actually,
Yes.
in fuel stations. We've
Yes.
heard of people being shot.
Yes.
We've heard of explosions,
Yes,
tankers,
yes.
people trying to scoop. So many things are
So
happening.
it's a national emergency, and it should be treated with the same level of seriousness. I mean, Ibe Kachuku did make a broadcast recently, which was a big improvement from his previous statements, maybe because of the mild rebuke from a few Nigerians and of course Jagaban, maybe, which I thought was one of the highlights of the last few months. Interesting input there, but he tried to explain to Nigerians, and you see about the situation, and it's a big relief. We want to know why, and then we want to then know how you're going to solve the problem. He did tell us how. He gave some timelines. He said 7th of April, the queues were going to disappear. That's still too long in my view, but that leaves a strong message to all the counterparties involved in creating the issues around this. And so there's a bit of hope. And I think that this government will not want a repeat. So I expect that some sustainable measures could be in place. You know, I'm very hopeful these days about the government of the day. We have to find ways
They seem
to
to be
help
appealing
them.
to us a lot. There's a lot of appeals. Mr. President has appealed. Ibe Kachuku has appealed. The Minister of Information, I think, 2 days
Kachuku
ago
didn't just
appealed.
appeal,
They're
he
all
asked for
appealing.
help.
How much longer can Nigerians take the appeals?
Yes, Kachuku went more than appealing. He asked for help. Okay, he said, help us. Come up with your ideas. There are other experts in the industry that may know 1 or 2 things. There are people, we go to the gas stations, we see the issues there. We know the people that are hiking prices. We know the people that are selling late at night to black market dealers and all of that. He appealed to our national consciousness and our role in building our nation. And I think that's what Lai Mohammed should be doing much, much more than everybody else. He seemed to be still campaigning for the APC.
Or against the PDP. Thank you very much for being here today, Leonard Ebute. It's always a pleasure having you here.
Thank you.
When we come back, we'll be talking more right here on Rubbin Minds. Please stay with us.